Okay, there we go. Okay, so as I had indicated, this is the intro to volleyball, to elementary volleyball. It's a program that's designed for kindergarten grades, pardon me, 1 to 6. My name is Tom Ash. I work as a program coordinator for Sask Volleyball, and my area of responsibility is what's called grassroots programming. Just a little bit about me. I did 2 undergraduate programs at the University of Saskatchewan and a master's program at the University of Regina. I have completed this is old school now, level 2 coaches training. In my work life, I was a classroom teacher. I taught in a classroom for 24 years, everything from grade 8 to grade 12. I spent 5 years as a consultant with Regina Public. In that time, I was a science and then a science math consultant, and I spent a year as an adjunct professor at the University of Regina in the Faculty of Education. I have coached a variety of sports over my many years of teaching. I am now 13 years having retired, so it's been a while since I've been in my own classroom. As a coach, I coach a variety of sports, predominantly volleyball. I coached high school volleyball, boys and girls, and I've coached club volleyball, competitive club volleyball, everything from 14 and under to 18 and under, and I've spent some time working with our Saskatchewan provincial team. Now that I'm retired, I've done a little bit of consulting. I've done a little bit of teaching at both the high school and university level, but now in the last 10 years, 11 years, I guess this is my 11th year with Sask Volleyball. My responsibility is the elementary volleyball program, so everything K to 8, plus a program that's called Smash Ball, and I'm shameless promotion here. I'm doing a Smash Ball presentation a week from now, and I know some of you have signed up for that. And I also looked after the age class programs, the competitive age class program at the 13 and 14 and under age levels. So tonight, what I want to do is consider what is the elementary volleyball program. I'll talk very briefly about the goals, its intent is. I'll talk about how it's organized, and again, from an educator's point of view, that is always something that I was interested in when I'm looking at programs of any kind, whether it was volleyball or academic programs, and what resources are available to support the program. And then lastly, what does it look like in the gym? So I'm going to share just a couple of videos that illustrate some of the activities that are included as part of the elementary volleyball program to give you a sense of what it might look like in the gym. Again, once all is said and done here, if you have questions, please feel free to ask. The elementary volleyball is intended as a resource, and it's intended to help to improve physical literacy while at the same time developing volleyball skills in kids and children from the grade 1 to 6 level. So that's where it fits in really well with phys ed programs. The goals of the program are to develop some fundamental movement skills, and I emphasize this because yes, it's volleyball, but its primary focus, especially for the younger grades, is to develop movement skills, fundamental movement skills. And I will talk a little bit about that as we go on here. It's also designed to promote problem solving and basic game tactics. For example, some of the movement patterns in volleyball. Now, this is, we'll see this in some of the programming for the older grades, especially 4, 5, and 6. It's also designed to develop and foster and promote a positive behavior, sportsmanship, teamwork, and respect for oneself and others. So it's more than just volleyball skill development. There's more to it, more facets to it than that. The program is designed to address the early stages of long-term athlete development. I don't know how familiar you are with those, and it's not necessary that you are, but know that the program designers incorporated the knowledge and the characteristics of long-term athlete development in program planning. And they have incorporated the basics of what's called stage 2, or the fundamentals stage of long-term athlete development, which is designed for children basically ages 6 to 9. And it's a little different for females and males, but roughly ages 6 to 9. So we're talking about essentially grades 1, 2, and 3. And also stage 2, or stage 3, pardon me, the learn to train stage, which is, again, it's roughly ages 9 to 12. Again, it varies for females and males. And so roughly we're talking about a programming for grades 4, 5, and 6. So this is where the overall program is designed that it can be used grades 1 to 6. In clinics that I've done, I've used it with kindergarten classes as well. It can certainly be modified to be used with our youngest students. Just a little bit about the fundamental stage. What we're focusing on here are the fundamental movement skills and overall motor skills. So at this stage, at the grades 1, 2, and 3 level, we're not focused on developing volleyball skills where they're learning to pass, forearm pass, overhead pass, serve, block, anything like that. It's all about movement here, movement skills, movement and developing motor skills. And I'll use some examples, or draw on some examples in just a little bit. But we're looking at the program uses games and uses activities to develop things like agility, coordination, jumping, balance, throwing, catching. Striking means hitting, in this case, volleyball, hitting the ball. So this is what we're looking at here. We're not talking about specific volleyball skills. When we get to the learn to train stage, now we're talking about starting to develop some of the basic, in the long-term athlete development, they talk about developing basic sport-specific skills. Of course, as it applies to volleyball, we're talking about developing skills like overhead passing. You might call it setting or volleying, forearm passing or bumping, spiking, serving, and blocking. So the progression is that the early stages of the program, or the early levels of the program, are designed to develop movement skills and movement patterns, develop motor skills, and then the grades 4, 5, and 6 level, we're looking at starting to develop some of the basic volleyball skills. Now, just to give you an example then, examples of some of the movements, the fundamental movements that we try to develop in children, is to be able to move forward, backwards, move with accuracy towards the ball. In this case, of course, it's volleyball, catching the ball with 2 hands. Now, the application, or how that's coordinated with volleyball, is that, well, when we're passing the ball, we want to contact the ball with 2 hands. So that's an example of the connection. So if children have difficulty catching the ball with 2 hands, then it makes it even more difficult to ask them, or to teach them to be able to pass the ball with 2 hands. So that's the progression, that's the connection, we'll say. Examples of fundamental movement skills: being able to throw the ball with 2 hands overhand. The connection there is that leads into being able to teach the children how to set or overhead pass the ball. Hitting the ball with 1 hand underhand, the progression is to be able to have them hit the ball or serve the ball with 1 hand, or underhand serve. So that's the connection between the movements, fundamental movements that we try to develop at the grades 1, 2, and 3 level, and the application of volleyball specific skills at the 4, 5, and 6 level. Okay, this one is maybe fairly straightforward, but being able to jump up and down vertically. Okay, the application is in terms of spiking and blocking. So all that I'm trying to indicate here is the connection, the coordination, I guess, of the fundamental movement skills with specific volleyball skills that we would teach the children at older age levels. So how are the volleyball skills related to what the program is trying to do? The goal of the program, what we're trying to do with the elementary volleyball program, is to introduce children to the game of volleyball. No, there's no getting around it. But we're trying to use play experiences to teach the children some of the basic game tactics, some of the basic technical skills and some of the rules of the game. So for example, basic skill tactics like we want to move the ball, pass the ball from the back of the court towards the net, and then along the net before we pass it over the net. So I know it sounds simple, but that's something that children have to learn. And that's an example of one of the basic game tactics, we'll call it. And then the program is also trying to meet the specific needs and abilities of the children. So adaptations are made to be able to do that. So how are they met? Through adaptations that encourage learning, promote success, and increase the enjoyment of the children. Now, certainly as a volleyball person, all of these lead to the children wanting to continue to participate in volleyball, which of course is one of my hopes. So how do we address the abilities? And this is through making adaptations that encourage longer rallies. In other words, the children are involved for longer periods of time. It's not like the traditional volleyball where a person could serve an ace and it's a serve and the play is done. We're trying to encourage longer rallies, keep the children engaged for longer periods of time. We want to try to maximize the number of contacts or the number of touches that the children have. The more touches they have, the more confidence they gain, and typically the better the skill development. We want to keep the kids active for as long as possible. We don't want them standing around. And we want to decrease the difficulty of the skill execution. And you're going to see examples of that as we go along here. We don't want to make it so difficult. And the program is designed so that the activities are straightforward and are address the ability of the kids where they are, their ability to be able to catch the ball, track the ball, that kind of thing. And then it also is designed to simplify the roles and responsibilities of the players. So we aren't concerned with, okay, you're a back row player, you're a front row player, you're a setter, you're a middle hitter, you're an outside hitter. That can get really complicated really fast. So the program is designed to break down the play so that the roles are simpler, more straightforward. It's easier for the children to be, I guess, find it inviting to participate. And we want to include all of the participants. We don't want children sitting around. So what are some of the adaptations? Well, one of the main ones is varying the number of players. In the program, the activities are designed to be, in some cases, individual. So each child has a ball, but some of the gameplay formats are 1-on-1 or 2-on-2, 3-on-3, but that's it. The largest grouping of players, if they're playing any kind of a competitive game, is 3-on-3, which necessarily makes it more likely that everybody's going to get a chance to touch the ball, to contact the ball. We alter the court size. For this program, the ideal court size is actually a badminton court. A badminton court works really well with the size of the court, but also the lower net. Or another modification is to take a volleyball court, lower the net as reasonably low as possible, and that would be based on the age level of the children. So grade 1, 2, and 3, you want it as low as possible. Grades 5 and 6s, you would raise it so that it's appropriate to the height of the athletes. And then again, adjusting the height of the net. With the volleyball court, what I typically do is basically just divide the court in half lengthwise so that I have 2 courts that I can use on one volleyball court. And then another adaptation is to use bigger volleyballs or lighter volleyballs. For our littlest athletes, our youngest athletes, especially kindergartens, balloons work really, really well. Balloons and beach balls. Grade 1s, they work really well also. But there are also lighter trainer volleyballs that are available that are well suited to children at this level, especially the younger children. Now, here's an example of one of these activities. This is a little activity. It comes right out of the teacher guide called Beat Your Record. And what these children are trying to do is they are basically just tossing the ball back and forth. You'll notice that these 2 young boys on this side of the net and the young gals on the other side of the net, they're not tossing it over the net. In this activity, the barrier is the skipping rope that you see between them, and there are pylons to define their court. Now, there's no sound to this, so you're going to see the activity in action, we'll say. And all that they're asked to do here with this little activity is they're trying to see how many times they can toss the ball back and forth to their partner, catching the ball, and they're counting how many catches they get. Now, as you'll see later on, what I'm going to do is that you'll see how this can be woven into a lesson plan. So that's an example that activity would be designed really well for grade 1, well, kindergartens, but grade 1s, grade 2s. It's a way for them to learn how to toss the ball to a partner or a quoted target, catch the ball, move to catch the ball. Now, what I want to do is talk a little bit about the program resource. So the Elementary Volleyball program, Volleyball Canada has put together a teacher guide. It's a 150-page teacher guide, teacher resource. And I'm going to talk very briefly about how it's organized. Again, this is sort of the teacher in me wanting to take a look at what it looks like, what it includes. It's broken down into 6 units. And the way I see it, the way I use it, and I use it when I get invited to schools to do clinics, is basically it's 1 unit per grade. So unit 1 is essentially grade 1 level activities. Unit 2 is grade 2, and so on. Within each unit, there are 6 lessons. Now, having said that, it's not to suggest that, okay, if I'm teaching grade 1, there are 6 lessons, so that's all I have to do, or that's all I can do. There's lots of flexibility so that you could lengthen that if you wanted to. Certainly you could compress it if you wanted to, but there are 6 lessons that are identified within each unit. And there are 3 main skill sets that are addressed. And there's the motor component, the movement component. There's a behavioral component. In other words, a behavior, how do I react if I make a mistake or my partner makes a mistake, or that kind of thing. And then the tactical and problem solving component. So it's more than just the sort of the athletic component of it, pardon me. And then 3 ways to play the games, and I've already addressed these. Different grouping sizes, but the maximum grouping size is 3-on-3. Now, just to give you an example of some of the motor skills that are developed at within the different units, and again, unit 1 more or less equates to grade 1. It does not mean that a grade 2 teacher or grade 3 teacher couldn't use some of the activities. Certainly they could. And when I'm doing clinics, I borrow activities from some of the younger grades as even warm-up activities for the older grades I work with. Anyway, these are some of the goals that we're trying to accomplish with unit 1, which it focuses on moving. So as you can see here, moving in all directions toward the ball, catching the ball with 2 hands without dropping it, throwing the ball overhand or underhand with 2 hands, and judging the ball trajectory. So we're talking about really basic stuff here. You'll notice there's no mention of passing, forearm passing, overhead passing, serving. It's all about movement here. And for those of you that have young children, or you work with young children, you can look at this and say, oh yeah, I can see that this is something that would have to be developed. It's not an innate talent or skill that children are simply able to toss and catch a ball. It's something that has to be developed, and that's what the intent of unit 1 is. Unit 2 is moving in different directions towards the ball and catching it. So now we're not just talking about moving towards the ball, but we want to move and catch the ball. So we're adding sort of a layer of, I wouldn't say complexity, but we're expecting a little bit more. Grade 3, now we're playing here. It says playing the ball using an overhead pass. What it really means is being able to throw the ball with the ball overhead, or being able to throw the ball, toss the ball using an underhand pass, tossing it underhand. And again, those of you with experience at the grade 2 or 3 level, you know that this is something that would need to be or is developed. And that's what the unit is trying to do with the various activities. Now, when we get to Unit 4, cooperating, now we're dealing with passing to a partner, looking at how we can move the ball to a partner. And you'll notice the terminology using a rainbow trajectory. In other words, now we're starting to expect the children to use sort of a defined flight path to the ball. So it's not just a case of throw the ball and hope it gets to my partner. We're talking about now refining that toss or that pass. When we get to Unit 5, now we're getting to the grade 4-5 level, mostly grade 5, but passing the ball to a specific zone. So we're not just tossing to a partner, but we're tossing it to an area on the court, and we want a high trajectory. So this is developing this notion of, typically, passing the ball towards the net with a specific trajectory. And then the last unit 6, so now we're developing a bit of a structure to the gameplay that the children would be involved in. And notice here, passing the ball to a setter at the net. So now we're talking about not just passing the ball, and in most cases, we're still talking about doing some tossing, but we're moving it to a specific person at a specific location. So in all of this, from Unit 1 to Unit 6, we're getting more specific with as the children develop, sort of more proficiency at being able to handle the ball. So how are they taught? In other words, what does it look like in the gym? In other words, what does the lesson look like? Volleyball Canada has put together a reasoned lesson plan format. And again, it's not intended that it's prescriptive. It's intended to be a guide. I find, again, as a former teacher, I find it very useful for me to have a bit of a framework to be able to plan lessons when I get invited out to schools. So the lesson plan format, there are suggestions for warm-up activities. There are suggestions for grouping activities. Now, with that said, there are suggestions. As experienced teachers, you may say, well, I've already got a number of ways that I prefer to group my students. No problem. They're simply suggestions. Now, this next part is a key part to the whole organization of the lesson. And it's a sequencing of a game, followed by a skill activity, followed up by a game, and then a cool down at the end. Now, this gameplay, skill activity gameplay is based on an approach that is called teaching games for understanding. Earlier on, I had made reference to the fact that the whole program is designed to engage the children as much as possible in games, activities, and that's what the lesson plan is designed to do. It's designed to have this kind of, I call it a sandwich, gameplay, skill activity, gameplay, as a central feature, central part of the lesson plan. Now, some of the reasons for this are quite simple, and those of you who are either educators or you have your young children, you know that kids like to play. So essentially what the program is trying to do is just to tap into that. Kids like to play, great. Here's some games, some activities to engage you. So we're already tapping into their desire. They want to play, they like to be active. Here's a way to harness that. Some of the I guess guidelines for success that are outlined in the program is that play is a central part of all this, and that we're encouraged, those of us who use this, is to have the children play as much as possible, but certainly about at half of the time. And the gameplay helps to teach the skills, the motor skills, the fundamental movements that we are trying to have the children learn, trying to teach. Another guideline, another premise of the program is to ask questions rather than give answers. Now, when I was first introduced to the program, this is something that I found challenging. I found challenging because of my background as an educator, but also my background as a competitive volleyball coach. So the approach that I would traditionally take as a coach, I would say, okay, I've watched an athlete performing a skill, and I might say, okay, to improve, you should do this, or you need to do this. The approach of the elementary program is to take one where we we engage the children in the process of learning. In other words, get them to consider, how might you, if you want a different outcome when you're tossing the ball to your partner and it's not getting there, what might you do to ensure that it gets to them? Well, I might move closer to them, or I might toss it harder. In other words, we're engaging them. The program is designed to engage them in part of the I guess we'll call it the problem solving. And I like this approach, but it's one that I had to come to learn based on my previous experiences. Now, just to give you an idea of what this looks like, I've taken a page right out of the teacher guide. So if you had a teacher guide and you went to Unit 1, this is the first page that you would see. This is the overview for Unit 1. I do apologize that I've had to sort of shrink it so that you can see sort of the overall organization of it. It may be a little bit small, and I apologize for it. So Unit 1, this is the unit at a glance. So I can see right now, when I turn to this page, I can see all 6 warm-up activities that are available for me to use. There are 6 grouping activities that I can choose from. There are 6 games that I can use as part of that game, skill activity, game sequencing. Then there are 6 skill activities. And then now you'll notice here that most of these games are the same as the games in part A. And that's by design. And then there are cool down activities. Now, I had said earlier on that each unit has 6 lessons. Well, as you can see here, and as an educator, I'm sure that you can appreciate that you're not required to do warm-up 1 and then grouping 1 and then game 1 and then activity 1. You can mix and match. You can choose to use these in any way that works for your situation. And so with that said, you could choose to do 4 lessons. You could choose to do more than 4 lessons with all of the options that are available to you here. So you can mix and match. It's not a sequenced program. Now, just to give you an example of what this might look like in the gym. So I've chosen Unit 1, the moving. What I do, and this is an example. I was in Meadow Lake at the beginning of September, and this is an example of what I did with a grade 1 class. So one of the game activities I used was beat your record. You saw the video of that before. So the children are tossing the ball back and forth, trying to toss and catch it many times as they can. Then the follow-up to that is a activity called throw and catch. And basically each child has their own volleyball, and they try to throw it and catch it in as many different ways as they can. And I've got a video to show you that in just a moment. And then that's followed up with, again, the gameplay beat your record. The idea here, though, is that the second time that we play beat your record, we're encouraging the children to beat your record. If you tossed and caught the ball 7 times prior to the skill activity, then we're hoping that you're going to get 8 or more in this activity. And hopefully their experience with the throw and catch has provided a little bit more skill development, we'll say, or ability to be able to throw and catch the ball with a partner and, in fact, beat their record. This is an example. This is taken again right from the teacher guide. So as in the teacher guide, there's a 1-pager for each of the gameplay activities, each of the skill activities. So as you can see here, there's a goal that's outlined. It explains how it's played, some questions that you could use following the activity, some modifications, variations that you might make. So here's where you can use this activity with grade 1s. You could use it with grade 2s, with grade 3s. I've used it with grades 4s and 5s on occasion. Some safety points to be aware of, and then the equipment that you would use. So this is, if you chose to use this, here's an example of a lesson that's basically laid out for you. Do you have to follow it exactly the way it's laid out here? Of course not. As educators, I'm sure that you are quite adept at modifying to suit the children that you're working with and the circumstances, the time allotments, etc. So we've already seen this, so I'm not going to go through this. This is the beat your record activity. Now, this is a skill activity that I'm going to show you in just a minute, but it's the throw and catch. And again, there's a goal that's laid out here. There's a description of how it's played, what you should look for. So as an educator or a coach, leader, this is what you're looking for in this particular skill activity. Again, variations, safety points, and the equipment that you would need. So it's set up in a similar manner to the gameplay activities, the game activities. So this is the throw and catch. I'm going to run it. Again, there's no sound to this, so don't do any adjusting on your end. So some of the, I guess, guidance that the children would have been given prior to this is they would have been asked to toss and try to catch the volleyball, try to toss it using one hand, two hands, toss from below your waist, above your head to different heights, and then to encourage them to catch it. And again, you could encourage them to catch it below their waist, above their head, catch it with one hand, catch it with two hands. In the teacher's guide, it suggests adding some challenges. In other words, after they toss the ball, clap your hands once and catch it. And of course, as soon as you do that, as soon as you add some challenges, I'm sure that you would be experienced with this, that as soon as you say, toss the ball and clap your hands once and catch it, as soon as a few kids have done that, now they're clapping their hands 2 times to catch it. Now they're clapping their hands 3 times to catch it, which is great. It's a way that they can challenge themselves and challenge their classmates. Okay, let's go back to, whoop. So again, what are we doing here? What are we looking at? It's the gameplay, beat your record. It was followed by the throw and catch, and then it was followed by beat your record. So this is the sequencing that's the central part of the lesson plans in the program. So just to summarize what we've looked at in the elementary volleyball program, I've talked about what it is. It's a resource. That's what it is. It's a resource that's designed for grades 1 to 6, can be used certainly for kindergarten children, and its focus is developing physical literacy with volleyball as sort of the engine that's driving that. And yes, at the 4, 5, and 6 level, we are attempting to develop volleyball skills in the children. How do we address them? It's through play experiences. So giving the children an opportunity to engage in play with adaptations, modifying the number of children that are participating at any one time, in other words, on the teams, court size of the volleyball, net height, those kinds of things. And then we've looked at or considered what does it look like in the gym. And I've talked briefly about the lesson plan format that's the central focus of the program. I'm going to just ramble on here or continue on just very, very briefly, just to talk about the resource itself. I am not trying to be a salesperson here, but I want you to be aware of where this resource is available. I did outline that briefly in the email that I sent to you folks earlier today. Anyway, it's on the Volleyball Canada website. There's information of where, if you are interested, you could obtain, or how you could obtain the teacher guide. It's on the Volleyball Canada website. I sent the link, but if you wanted to search it yourself, it's the Volleyball Canada website, and they have 3 or 4 large headings. One of them is called Development, and you would want to go to the Play section in that. What you would find there, if you were to sign in to the Volleyball Canada website, you would find that, and with that, you would find that there's the Volleyball Teacher's Guide. They also have a video library that shows some of the activities in action. So 2 of the ones that I showed you today, Beat Your Record and Throw and Catch, are on that website, as well as a number of others. So there's a video component to this as well. This is the page to which I directed you in the link that I sent you. And if you are interested in order to obtain the teacher guide, it's not available for purchase. What you have to do is you actually have to take an e-module that's offered by Volleyball Canada, and down at the bottom, the arrow there indicates how you can, quote, sign up for it. There is a cost of $59. And as I indicated in the email that I sent to you, anyone who decides that they want to take the e-module, and it takes about 2 to 2.5 hours to go through it. And I did it in one sitting, but I think you can probably stop and start as need be. But anyway, once you've taken that program, if you take it, Sask Volleyball will reimburse you the full amount for that, the cost of taking the e-module. I just need a record of your receipt and a record that you've completed the program. This is just to give you an idea of what it looks like. In other words, if you go to when it says click here to begin, you go to, this is what you're going to see. You basically have to set up an account, a coaching account, which calls for basic information there. It's part of what they call the coaching center. And then what you would do is you would register for the elementary volleyball e-module. You would pay for it, and probably the easiest way to do that is via credit card. So you would pay for it, and then away you go, you take it. Once you've taken it, then you have access to that electronic teacher's guide whenever you want it. I'm of a vintage that I'm a print guy. So what I did is once I had taken the course, I just printed it off. So I have a hard copy. I can write in it. I can photocopy it to suit my own needs. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is an overview of the elementary volleyball program. I'm just going to finish off here and then open it up for questions. I'll shut down my presentation in a minute. If at any point you have any questions, you have my email address, obviously, or we've been corresponding via email, or you can text and phone me at my cell number below, and it's also on the correspondence that I've sent you before. So with that said, just a second here, stop recording. There we go. Stop recording.